Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Weekly Awakening Podcast. It is your host, Cosmic Colleen, back with your Astro Weekly Forecast. I want to remind everyone, I am going to Florida. So one thing, this episode might be a little bit longer than normal. So if you need to stop halfway through and come back to it next week, because I'm going to talk about a little bit of what happened this weekend, this week, and a little bit into next week. I am going to Florida on vacation on Tuesday with my family, which I'm super excited about. So next week's episode will not be out till most likely Wednesday, if I had to guess, maybe even a little bit later. Again, when I get back from vacation and I have a full book of hair to do, my own energy, my intuitive energy, as well as just my functional energy is a little bit tapped out. So bear with me next week. I'm not sure exactly when next week's episode is going to come out. Thank you again for everyone who keeps sharing this episode. I'm getting more daily listeners, people who post about it. Again, that's the best way to support the Weekly Awakening Podcast right now, is basically sharing this with a friend, posting about it on social media, listening, liking it, subscribing it. That really helps me, and it's getting this out there. So thank you guys for following along with this journey. This week we have Mercury moving back into Gemini, the full moon in Sagittarius on Monday. We're going to talk about the Venus conjunct Uranus, which happened this weekend, and at the end of the week it's going to be squared Saturn. Immediately on Tuesday, not immediately, later in the evening, it is at 6:13, the moves into Capricorn. What else do we have that I want to talk about this weekend? I guess the big things this week are going to be the new moon in Sag, Venus conjunct Uranus, which I talked about a little bit about last week. So go back to listen to that episode if you want to get a better idea about this. But it's going to be squared Saturn. And what else am I going to talk about? Those are pretty much the big things. A little bit of Mercury moving back in, but those are going to be the big transits leading out for this week. I'm excited about this full moon, guys, because full moon in Sagittarius, this has been the first full moon in Sagittarius that hasn't been in an eclipse season. You know, 2020 into 2021 was the eclipse season for the mutable rising signs. And that is because we have the lunar and solar eclipses bouncing around in the sign of Sagittarius. So normally with full moons, our emotions are heightened. It brings out, or brings into sharper focus our home environment, our family, our deep subconscious emotions, our fluctuations in fortune, and it highlights that. And it also brings up some very, again, changes in our environment at home, but also brings up, I don't know where I was going with that, actually. Like, wait, where was I going with that? Anyways, so with this full moon, this is the first one that is happening that is an eclipse in Sagittarius. So even though it's a full moon, and again, things are heightened, things are a little bit more dramatic, or our emotions are harder to control, or sort of happening out of nowhere. So I'm excited, though, because I think that this full moon is really going to be a positive one. It's going to be an easier one. First of all, it's an immutable sign. So mutable signs, when a full moon happens in those, I generally think the full moon energy is a little bit more mutable. The chaos is easier to let go of, easier to forgive, and again, just more moving or changing, and it comes in stronger waves. This full moon is going to be sextile Saturn, so that's positive with that. And it's going to be squared Neptune. And so with Neptune, we're going to look more so for things outside of ourselves, a little bit more on the collective or us as a whole with something else. So this is going to be, though, a really good healing full moon. Again, it's going to have a positive nature. It's sort of like whatever was happening and played out in Sagittarius in your chart over 2020 to 2021. This is sort of like a beautiful full moon and letting go of that and restarting at the same time. I would say this is a good full moon to do something radical for healing, whether you go do ayahuasca, or shout out to my friend Earth Angel Liz. If you remember in 2020, I went and did the Cambos ceremony for my own energy, something that is very out of the box, unorthodox, something that sort of shakes things up in a positive way. Sometimes with just like all routines, our spiritual routine can get caught up. It can get stagnant, or it can get just the same thing, whether it's prayer, meditation, walking, and we need something new, something fresh sometimes, because we get bored and we get dull with what we're constantly doing. So maybe shake something up really big. Maybe instead of meditating, in your living room, Go for a trail ride, go out into the woods, go do a water healing, do something with that and gain some spiritual breakthroughs. This is going to be a pretty spiritual full moon. We're going to be leading with blind faith. That's going to be a theme. There's going to be a little bit of confusion and meaning kind of experiencing something that seems like it's not reality or getting lost in reality. We can get that way. We can get lost with emotions, feeling like we can't see the reality of our emotions is going to be is going to be a big thing right here. Yet we're trusting the bigger picture, changing your attitude for a more positive way. Grounding yourself, coming down to earth. I know I need that a lot if you know me, and I definitely shared on this. I can get lost up in space, lost way in my head. So grounding yourself. This can make you feel a little bit emotionally insecure or make you see something the wrong way, maybe in someone. Again, home, family, intimate relationships, and emotions are in a bigger focus. They're going to be really put on display. And where do we need to have a little more faith around those things? How do we need to trust what is happening? And again, we can feel if we're having some shifts with that, we can feel a little bit delusional with the square to Neptune. Experience something. Oh yeah, again, reality keeps coming to me. Like experience something that makes you question your reality. And I think question your reality with emotions. I know if I get too emotionally upset or too emotionally, I turn into, or I should say I go into another world. It's heightened. It's almost like the world is moving around me and I'm just sort of simply existing, like in one of those movies where all time stops for you. That is sort of losing touch with reality a little bit and just flying through your emotions. But again, come back to your spiritual self. Come back to filling that void with spirituality because that's really what you're seeking. You might seek it in other ways, but that's really what you're going to seek with that. So again, I'm excited for this full moon. Let go of things that are testing your faith or, believe that faith is bigger than what is testing it. I don't know why. I guess we have tests in faith because it makes it grow stronger. And we can only grow stronger through positively guiding through those tests or getting through the test and seeing how it really did work out for the better. So that might be really the themes for this full moon in Sagittarius. I want to tell you guys a little bit of a story. So this past weekend, we had Venus conjunct Uranus, and it's happening in my 9th house, which I have a natal Jupiter in Taurus. And the 9th house is faraway travel, spirituality, religion, law, just kind of higher learnings altogether. And as you know, Venus rules our sisters. It can rule mothers, our children, joy, pleasure, romance, love, self-love. And Uranus is very sort of out of the box, unorthodox, sudden, shocking changes. It can also bring breakthroughs in a good way. So with conjunctions, especially with that, we look at breakthroughs. And I wasn't sure exactly how this was going to show up. And some things aren't so major. Sometimes they show up small like this. So I woke up this morning and I was kind of out of it, but relaxed out of it. I've just been going so hard, work. And I was able to just take some alone time and I laid down and did some yoga. And then all of a sudden I just went into this mental place of prayer, and I was crying tears of gratitude and happiness and prayer. Something that definitely has been missing and for me in the last 2 years has been sort of a strong spiritual connection, and I've been fighting for it, yet sort of feeling apathetic about it. When I was leaving my ex-husband, and you guys remember, if you've been following for my podcast, you know all about it. If not, maybe go back and listen. But to 2020, so much of that relationship, my ex-husband, I married him after 2 months, and it was a very romantic fairy tale. And so much of my faith was tied into that. My beliefs for something greater than me, God, everything was tied into that. And it definitely carried me through that hard time and through the divorce. However, afterwards, it sort of what I realized, disconnected me from it. It almost I lost a little bit of belief because I broke this belief of what I thought love was, or this very childlike, it's kind of that first time you really think what true love is, and then it breaks, which is very important. It has to happen. I'm happy all that happened, but I realized it sort of broke my actual spiritual connection. And I've been getting by with teaching it and sharing it with people and helping other people. However, again, I was feeling very apathetic, and it's been bothering me, to really show. I haven't been putting in as much action as I'd like to, solid action, and my body is craving it and yearning it. So I lay down, and it was all of a sudden, it like broke through. I was able to focus. I was able to pray. I was able to cry. I was able to mourn. I was just so grateful for where I'm at in life and happiness and how I've gotten there and how hard I've worked. And I spent an hour doing it. And then I wrote my notes for the podcast, and I allowed myself to flow and move so much energy. I put a frequency on, which always happens. I just picked one, actually 888, a very Jupiter one. And that's how that really showed up. Venus conjunct Uranus. I had a breakthrough. I had, again, I cried tears of joy and gratitude and sorrow, and just felt this strong connection and willing and not so apathetic anymore to put the work in there and get ass in gear, because it's something I've always strived for, something that makes me happy, something I like to do as a priority. If I do that as a priority, put my spirituality or faith there, I tend to be happier. And I tend to put myself in a much energetically positive way. So that, I just want to share that. That's how the Venus conjunct Uranus. So that sometimes they just come with that, with awareness or thoughts or healing. And, we sort of are still in this Uranus Saturn dynamic for the rest of 2021, and it just broke through. And Uranus brings breakthroughs. So that's what you guys might have experienced this week. Now, at the end of the week, it is squared Saturn. So, here we go. That can create a little bit of tension, I guess, again, with, we have Venus breaking away and wanting to be innovative. And again, go back to last week's episode to talk a little bit more about what with that we can have when a sudden change. But this could make us feel tension with our loved ones, tension with our friends or kids, even ourselves, or what brings us joy. We might feel blocked when finding joy or wanting to seek out joy. We also might feel like we are restricting ourselves, or we don't want to restrict ourselves anymore for something, or maybe we actually do need to restrict ourselves. Maybe something we're doing isn't really good for us, or maybe it's toxic for us. Feeling guilty about your morals, meaning maybe you're doing something that isn't normally what you do. Maybe it's not out of your best moral interest. Maybe it's something that usually, am I causing harm when I do this? Do I feel good when I do this? Or am I being sort of sneaky? Am I going against my loyalties, my morals? A feeling of that and feeling guilty for that. And even just some feelings of guilt, and you have nothing to be guilty of. Maybe past guilts. Those things all need to be released too, because they stay in us. Also, like feeling like you need to hold up a tradition, again, or a moral that you were raised with, something that maybe it doesn't matter if you don't do it anymore. It doesn't actually change who you are, but you feel like you're going to let someone down. You're going to let your family down, your family traditions down. You're going to let your friends down if they know this certain thing about you, or if you decide not to do something anymore, meaning even just like going to church, anything like that. If you feel like, I'm not going to do this, I need a new identity. My morals or my tradition, my life doesn't line up with that tradition or the way I go about it, but I feel guilty leaving it. Or what are people going to think about that? My advice for that, if you feel that in general, what are people going to think? A, they're not going to die with you. They are absolutely not going to be there on your deathbed. And this is about you living your life. Again, as long as it doesn't hurt someone and you're not causing harm and you're not causing pain and not causing chaos, do what makes you happy. That's what's going to lead you to true happiness anyways. So much of if we don't live our most authentic self, if we're afraid of what others think, that is going to affect our overall happiness. I can promise you that. So that's going to be really what we're going to feel towards the end of the week. I'll be feeling that in Florida some way. And again, Venus conjunct Uranus. I think, look where Taurus is in your chart. Again, this is happening in my 9th house. And on the full moon, I think it's so funny. I'm actually leaving for vacation in Florida that morning. Our flight is 7 a.m., so I'm a little bit nervous with my kids, how they'll react. But I know it's going to be great, and it's going to be healing, and I'm excited to go down there and relax. And Sagittarius is in my 4th house of home, and I have Jupiter, it's ruling planet, my 9th house of faraway trips. So that's another way. That's sort of like how I'm kicking off the like kind of craziness of my life shifting and changing from the eclipses in Sagittarius. And now it's like, okay, things all formed together and it shifted and then it molded back together. And now I'm sort of celebrating on a trip, if that makes sense. That's how I kind of put that together. Hold on, what else did I want to talk about here? So we have Mercury moving now back into Gemini. And Mercury's happy. We finished out Mercury retrograde. Again, I talked about that last week's episode. Go back about finishing it. When it moved and it went direct into Taurus, it was like all of a sudden and then it was trining Pluto last week. So I'm going to tell you the story. It was kind of like our BS. You know, we all have mindset BSs, patterns, character defects, things we're not proud of that we either inherited, you know, whether through astrology, through DNA, whatever. It's things that we are going to have to learn and evolve. We're always going to learn and evolve. I tell my kids that. And there was just some small things that maybe got brought up that got brought up during Mercury retrograde that we really needed to say, hey, I need to quit that, or revisions. And for me, I love my drive into work. When I drive into the salon, I have about a 30-minute drive. It's peaceful. There's no traffic, back roads, and I normally get myself into it, you know, into a nice energetic space for my clients. And I was driving, but of course I was late on Thursday morning, and I got behind this like giant black asphalt truck that was huge and solid black, and I couldn't even see around it, so I couldn't even see the beauty of the road. It was going 10 miles under the speed limit, and I was instantly pissed off. I was clenching the steering wheel. I was mad. I was cursing it in my name. I was like, please turn. Sometimes I feel like I energetically get it to move. I'd be like, make a right at the stop sign, make a right at the stop, and it didn't. And about 10 minutes into it, I said, oh my God, this is my sign. I didn't even realize that. This is my sign that I need to let go, because I can't, either way, I'm going to be late. I can't be late. You know, I can't change that. So I can either show up to work with good vibes or show up to work with bad vibes. And I chose to let it go. I can't change it. And it's my own power dynamic. Like, how dare this truck go slow in front of me, and how dare this happens. And again, I said, it's not worth it feeling that anyway. I hate feeling that agita or whatever, and then it sets the bad tone for the rest of my day. So it took me, you know, a couple seconds to let it go, because I still didn't want to. It was like the ego. And then I let it go, and I cruised. I was like, didn't even care anymore. And I remembered at light on Bryn Mawr Avenue that I could take this back road to go around the light, because the light's a pain in the ass anyway. And there was a whole line of traffic, and that truck was like 10 cars behind that. So I ended up ahead of him and a ton of traffic once I put my mindset straight. Got to work. My client didn't care that I was late, and all was good, and I had a great tone to the rest of the day. So that was it. My lesson was, don't be late, or bitch, if you are late, lose your attitude. Again, you can't control it. You cannot control what is happening, but you can control your reaction, and that can lead to a smoother day, a smoother life. So remember that. It takes that work. It takes work and discipline to change our mindsets. So the rest of the week, let me see what's happening here. So Mercury is moving back into Gemini. It's moving into my 10th house. So wherever Gemini is in your chart, it's moving, and it's going to be making things happen fast and positively. There we go. It's going to make things move smooth, fast. It's going to be quick. The overall energy, you're going to have quick conversations. You're going to have interesting conversations. You're going to be more witty, and you're going to be interested in maybe, you know, I don't know, studying something new, or all of a sudden something out of the blue. You just want to have some more information, but you really want to connect with people on an intellectual level, and however your intellectual, you know, what you like to talk about looks like. You want to connect with people, and you're going to have more conversations. Again, being witty and thinking will be on your side as this happens in transit. Gemini, it's home in Gemini. And on TikTok, you know, I've been doing a lot of Gemini videos just talking about Geminis. And Geminis what I love about Gemini energy, and this is a lesson we're going to learn while Mercury is there, Gemini understands the depths of the world because it's Mercury, and Mercury likes to know, and it seeks to understand. However, even though it has that information of the depths, it really chooses to still have fun. It chooses to let go. It's a mutable sign. So we're going to choose to have more fun. We're going to choose to seek to understand. But even if something hard comes up, we're going to say, okay, something hard, and I'm going to take that in, and I'm going to understand that. However, I'm going to release it and choose, how can I look at the situation and have the most fun with it? How can I get my most, the feelings I like to feel the most in a positive way? How can I bring them into that situation? And that's going to happen. When it first moves in there, it is, you know, under the beams of the sun. And some Mercury things can be burnt up, you know, in the middle of the week when it first hits the sun at that degree. I got to see what degree it is. I actually didn't write that down. But when it hits that, sometimes it can be hard. But again, it's in its own chariot. It's happy. So at one point, when it's under the beams, right, as it's moving towards the sun, there can be some little bit of Mercury retrograde things, or our voice can sometimes not be heard. However, when it enters to the heart of the sun, it is protected in its home chariot. So Mercury things are going to be lifted up. And our forms of communication, our mind is actually going to be very positive and lifted up. So remember that as that happens. And we'll talk more next week. Again, I'm not sure when next week's episode is going to come out. It depends on what I do with my vacation. I want to remind everyone, though, follow me on TikTok, Cosmic Colleen, 1C. And every day or every couple of days, I post transits. And I go throughout my life, and all of a sudden things, my day today will just come to me that are about this transit. I have astrology on my mind 24/7. And I'll sit in my car or go somewhere and I'll just talk about more to it. So you want to, especially if you're interested in this daily, you definitely want to check that out, because I share more than I always share on this podcast. Instagram as well, Cosmic Colleen, 1C. Whew, I know I am ready to vacation. I work very hard. I put a lot of work in, but I love to just relax. That's why I put so much work in. And it's been a year since I've really taken vacation. And we have this crazy flight, and I'm like, I just can't read. I put in my kids in their bathing suits. When we get to the house, I'm not even going to unpack. They can just go swim, and I'm going to sit by the pool and not have to do any hair or anything. Because again, astrology and doing this is still very, very fun for me. It's what I love to do and what I enjoy to do. So that's the transits. What else did I write here? On Thursday, the sun is going to be trine Saturn retrograde, and the sun will be squared Neptune, and the moon then goes into Aquarius. So the sun trine Saturn retrograde, there could definitely be a time for rewards, for our hard work, our purpose, our path. Or maybe if we've been feeling stuck with our purpose or path, all of a sudden with, again, Saturn retrograde is really more of a positive thing when it turns retrograde. All of a sudden we have like ideas, or we put in enough work that we finally busted through. I was watching, the Imitation Game, or the In Session game, not In Session, I can't remember, but it was Southern, I can't even think of what the Doctor Strange is in it. Came out, 7 years ago. That was a really good movie that reminded me of that. He's trying to make the first computer to take out the Nazis, and the sun is trine Saturn, and put in the work. And even though people were making fun of him and saying it sucks, and so he didn't stop, and he believed in himself, and all of a sudden he had a breakthrough, and it was positive, and he saved the war. He won the war. So something along those lines, maybe not so big and dramatic, but something along those lines will be happening. So then Venus squared Saturn this weekend. So let me see. Also, this full moon is really a good time for those of you that I have listening that maybe are trying to maybe have some kids. This would be a good full moon to do that. I took down that notes. I don't know why that came to me, but if you are trying to conceive in some way, this would be a good time to do that. So that is our episode. Again, guys, next week I will try to get it out to you as soon as I can, but go back and listen to some older episodes. Maybe you can go back to 2020 and listen to my interview episodes from 2 years ago. The quarantine files, I called them. I have people all over the world, and they're fun episodes. They're ranging anywhere from like a half hour to 45 minutes. I had 3 interviews of people in Australia. All over. And it's cool to go back and hear, because they were stuck inside and we were talking about their lives while being stuck inside. So you can always check out those old episodes if you need something to listen to, if you miss this voice so much. Thank you guys again for your support. I love you all. I hope everyone has a good, beautiful week, a happy full moon, and believe in yourself. And enjoy the moment. You saw my video I posted of the Capricorn moon, Rob, from last week, and I asked him on his birthday what his best advice is be content. We're searching for more and more and more, and that never satisfies us, because then eventually, what we did have is gone and we regret it. So remember that. Stay content. Tell yourself, stay content. Thank you guys. I hope you all have a fabulous week, and I love you so much. Goodbye.